now? Or if not, I'll start reading a story from the book. Is it too loud? Because I'm quiet. Let's see if it works. Is it better now? Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Yeah, just let me know if it's too loud. Okay.
It's too loud.
Do you guys have any questions? No? So should I just read you a story? Just a little bit of introduction about the book. It's a collection of short stories. They're scary stories, but they're not like gory. They're horror. They're more strange and peculiar. So, yeah.
Are any of your stories based on true events?
Yeah, actually, this short collection was written with the purpose to scare the reader and with the idea that they happened. That was the idea. It started because a friend of mine, another author, he suggested me to like experiment and just write on Reddit, if you know the website. There's like a no-sleep community, and everyone can post short stories, and they're meant to be in first person. So all the stories in the collection are written in first person. 9 of them are written from a male point of view, and 3 are from a female point of view. The one that I will be reading you is from a male point of view, so keep that in mind. Obviously, I'm a female reading, and as you can tell, English is not my first language from my accent. But yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy the reading. The book is also available in audio format, so I will be doing a draw at the end if you guys would like to win an audiobook of this, like the audiobook version. You can write your name down on my form and leave your email address, and I'll select a few winners and I'll give a few audiobooks away. So yeah, do you have any other questions? If not, I'll start reading the story. Okay, the story that I'm going to read is called Stars and Snowflakes, and it's one of the longest stories in the collection. It was 5 a.m. when I heard the scream. I opened my eyes wide and stood up, listened carefully. Maybe I had imagined it, misheard it. The fire in my fireplace had gone cold a few hours ago, but my room was still warm, despite the long, winding crack in the wall. I have to get on and fix that one day, before it gets bigger and brings the whole house crumbling down. I turned back towards the window, listening. And then it came again, loud and horrifying, like it was escaping the bowels of hell. Shaking, I stepped up from the bed in my pajamas and went at the window. The snow had covered the edges of the frame, and the glass was encased with thin ice. The visibility was severely reduced. It was still pitch black outside, except for a light at the end of the yard. I inspected the area as much as I could, given my restrictions, but I couldn't see anything suspicious. There were a few cars, mostly covered in snow as well, on the street near my house, but otherwise everything was normal. It was an ordinary January morning. Help! I shook. I couldn't place where the scream was coming from, and that worried me further. Someone needed help, but who and where? I could put on my trousers and a thick flannel and search through my mind. What could it be? Where it was coming from? Why it sounded so faint, so distant, yet so strong? I had watched a documentary a few months ago about the serial killer Ted Bundy and other videos about different kinds of killers and how they would strike. One of the things that really stood out to me was one case. One time, a man attacked a woman, a young college student, near her apartment block. A neighbor heard her screams, and apparently he yelled and spooked the attacker away. He had stabbed the woman, but ran away. It was nighttime. The woman managed to enter her apartment block, bleeding, but still alive. Moments later, however, the attacker came back and stabbed the woman 56 times. She screamed for help, but nobody came out. That information shook me to the core. A woman laying bleeding on a cold floor, being overpowered and repeatedly stabbed by a man within reach and safety of her apartment, yet she was to suffer a painful, brutal death. I wondered where the neighbor who had initially yelled at the attacker, scaring him away. I wondered where was the neighbor who had initially yelled at the attacker, scaring him away. Had he not called the police, checked if the woman was fine the first time she was attacked? But mostly, I wonder where the other neighbors were, and how come nobody came out to help the poor woman while she was screaming and struggling to defend herself for more than 45 minutes. All that awful time, and nobody came out to her rescue. She could have been saved. Instead, she bled to death in excruciating pain, probably thinking nobody cared about her. It was a primal scream for survival, what I heard. I was not going to be that kind of neighbor. I was not going to lay awake in my bed waiting for the screaming to stop. I had to do something. I grabbed my phone and quickly called the police. After I gave them my address, I waited as per instructed by the policewoman. But then the screaming started again. I decided there was no time to spare. I pulled the jacket over and ventured outside in the bitter cold. I could hear the screaming better now, more clearly. It was coming from the large oak tree. There was a dark trail leading towards the trunk of the tree. I looked carefully and realized it was blood. I looked at the tree in the distance and scanned the area quickly. The screaming had stopped, ceased completely. Shit, I thought. I should have waited for the police. Someone very dangerous, very vile, could be behind that tree. Someone stronger than me. That's why those neighbors hadn't come out to help that woman. They were scared for their own lives. But I had to play the hero, idiot. I stepped slowly towards the tree, my eyes sharp, despite the sleep still lingering on my eyelids. I walked around the tree from a distance, not getting too close to it. I looked at the snow ground, expecting to see a body. Blood, human flesh, dismembered limbs. There was nothing of the such behind the tree. No track of a struggle, no body. I frowned, more shocked at that discovery than anything else. It didn't make sense. I had seen the trail of blood leading there, but that had suddenly ended near the trunk, just half a meter or so away from it. The snow there was completely white. There was no drop of blood, nothing at all that could point to a savage attack. There were several tracks in the snow, but from the size of them, I assumed they were from squirrels, except it had snowed overnight. I doubt the squirrels were up so early. And then a mouth shouted right in front of my face, so loud and so sudden it had appeared that it made me lose my balance and stumble to the ground. I fell and hit my head on the tree trunk. Everything went black. As far as I can remember, I was always fascinated with movie stars, which is why I wasn't startled when I saw Marilyn Monroe in front of me dressed in a white, sparkling gown, like a perfect sculpture, a deity in the snow. She looked real, and I didn't question it because I had imagined her in front of me, on top of me, behind me, wrapping her arms around my neck. I had imagined her many times to satisfy myself, her and many others. But I felt something sticky, and when my hand touched the back of my head and came up with dirty red fingers, I knew something was awfully wrong. I just wasn't sure what. I couldn't remember why I was outside in this sharp, stinging cold. Suddenly, Marilyn Monroe took my hand and led me away. I followed, mesmerized as if in a dream. We reached an illuminated building, a bar one could say. It was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't remember being there before, but I followed anyway. There was a figure of a man standing in the dark, leaning by a wall. He looked eerily familiar. His long, black, wavy hair blew in the wind. He stood lonely, and a sudden urge to speak with him came over me, but Marilyn pulled me away. "Let him be," she said, but said nothing, as if he'd taken a vow of silence. Merlin pulled me close and we went in. My old clothes had suddenly vanished and they were replaced by an elegant suit. I checked my breast pocket. There was a purple handkerchief tucked in. Nice! H.C., one of the greatest characters ever created in American literature, was by the bar, standing right next to his creator, Mr. S. He was telling him something about the ducks and how they froze in time, how nobody found them, but they were still alive somewhere, little ice statues. I gazed at the duo, fascinated by their conversation and by how one was young and the other old in appearance, yet they both seemed much younger, as if a child, the same child, possessed them both, but not in a bad way. They seemed alive, free. I looked around. The room was full with dancing girls, and there was a mime somewhere further away from the bar. He was showing off. The crowd was cheering. To my left there was a lift, and to my right was a stage. In the center of it was a staircase. It glimmered as if it was made of diamonds. Merlin laid on it bare. Her white skin seemed to glow, to take over the whole room. I shivered. Why am I still cold? I wondered. Everyone seems to be comfortable and warm in here, dancing and giggling and having a great time in general. You are still alive, my friend. That's why. If I were you, if I didn't feel the cold anymore, said Mr. F. Scott Fitzgerald, looking just like that famous movie star who played him, Tom something. I stared at him, unsure what he meant by that. He patted me on the back and gave me a fancy glass of something. I think it was spicy gin, but unfortunately I had to refuse him. I don't drink alcohol, you see. It makes me sick. The smell of gin especially, even just a few whiffs of it, gives me headaches. I prefer tea, but I doubted they were going to give me that in there if I asked. Fitzgerald held the glass from the stem and sipped from it, staring curiously at my face. I had so many questions to ask him, and I was just about to do it, when a girl wearing only a thin sky blue dress, who looked exactly like my first sweetheart from high school, long blonde curls bouncing on her back and shoulders, clear blue eyes, rosy full lips, asked me in a French accent if I wanted to dance. She saw me hesitate, so she grabbed my arms and pulled me to the dance floor. We engaged in a close dance. I was rather taken with her. Our bodies seemed to mold together as one. We were so close. We were just about to kiss when Marilyn suddenly turned up too. She looked more glamorous than ever before, alive, happy. She raised her perfectly shaped eyebrows at me, making me aware of something, someone. You wanted to speak with him. Try now. I looked at the tall man and his face painted black and white. The crow sat on his left shoulder. He held his face in long, strong palms. I sat down beside him. It's nice to listen to the rain sometimes. I get it. I like to listen to it when I'm sad. He looked at me frowning, but said nothing. It wasn't actually raining, but it felt suitable to say that to him. I always loved him in that movie. It was such a tragedy, was his last. Hey, shouldn't you be somewhere else by now, with someone you love deeply? What are you doing here on your own, lonely? You're not that kind of man. He gazed at me with his dark olive green eyes. They lit with apprehension. He smiled and stood up. He threw his black cape dramatically, but somehow he made the move look cool. The tall man caressed the black bird on the head and brought it close to his heart. The crow started shedding its black feathers, and in their place, white ones started sprouting out. In fact, the entire bone structure of the bird had changed. The crow was no longer a crow, but a dove. The man's entire face was bright now, illuminated. He stretched his arm before him and raised his palm. The dog stepped gently on it and turned into a small woman, growing gradually. The lean man took her into his arms and kissed her. They kissed with the kind of love one only finds once in a lifetime, and then together flew away into the light. I could hear boisterous distant laughs. I smiled. Tears fell quietly down my face. HC and Mr. S patted me on the back. Let's find the ducks, I said. I don't know how to swim, but somebody has to save them. Tell them there's not forgotten. Someone cares. They both nodded, and I thought I could see tears starting to form in their eyes as well. But then the woman in the blue dress grabbed my hand again. She wanted to dance once again. I politely declined. I have to go and find them, make sure they're okay. That scream, it started again. It came from the bathroom now. I rushed there, and in my haste, I didn't notice the people in the vicinity turning until later. They were all staring at me. Their faces had aged, and they looked more dead than alive. They reached to grab me. One stumbled into a stool and crashed face down onto the floor. Few bones broke and fell scattered at my feet. I stumbled back. The rest of them were still coming towards me strong. The mime was trying to hit me with a baton, and the dancing girls were bare bones now. The elegant clothes hung loose on their ashen bones, and they clanked towards me on their high heels as if engaged in a macabre dance. One more dance, one of them hissed. One more dance, another shouted. I ran to the bathroom as fast as I could and locked the door behind me. Who are you? A young voice said softly just behind me. I turned carefully. A little girl sat down leaning by the cold wall. She looked alive and familiar, but I didn't know why or where I knew her from. Maybe her blonde curls reminded me of a friend I had, or maybe it was her eyes. They were sad. What are you doing here, alone in the night? I am always alone, she said. I sat down beside her and caught my breath momentarily. The zombies, or whatever they were, could wait a few moments. There was always time to spare for a conversation with a kin soul. Where are you from? Oh, just over from the riverside. I have a place there. I had. Oh, the store tore it apart. They aren't there anymore. Your, your parents? She nodded and started sobbing. Loud banging began at the door. They were close, the old broken creatures. Hey, give me your hand. We have to leave this place. Come. We stood up. I checked the window. It was open. It looked large enough for a child to escape. I raised the girl on my shoulder and she got through. Just then, the zombies, or whatever kind of creatures they were, broke the door and filled the bathroom. They looked hungry. I scrambled through my mind and thought about The Walking Dead. I couldn't remember an episode in which the characters escaped from a bathroom filled with zombies ready to devour them. But I hadn't watched all the episodes, so I could be wrong. Maybe there was someone who had gone through that. Maybe there was a way. Maybe someone had escaped from something like this. Maybe they survived. Yeah, right. If only I was that lucky. But I was no movie star, and the bathroom was clearly not a movie set. I didn't have a script. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Come, the little girl said, but it was too late for me. One exit was blocked by the creatures, and the other one looked way too small for me to fit through. But I did not intend to die there. I looked in the mirror. Save me, just this once. A bunch of heavy snow fell on top of my head and pushed me to the ground. What the hell? Where the heck am I? I looked around, relieved that somehow I had escaped the morbid creatures, but confused. It was dark and I didn't know where I was, but when I looked up, I saw the top of the large cherry tree and the little tree house I built when I was a kid. It was still standing after all these years. Surprised and a little lightheaded, I stood up. I could see my grandfather's house in close distance. A wave of relief washed over me. A light was on in his kitchen. I looked around, but there was nobody. Only a few small tracks in the snow leading back to the house. They looked like a child's soles. I brushed the snow off my palms and followed the tracks. The end sometimes. Someone whispered closely in my ear. Then I heard a giggle far away in the wind, and it started to snow again. I went in, lit a fire, and started to boil a large pot of water to make some chamomile tea. My head still hurt. I had to make sure I treated the wound and cleaned away any infection I could have, internally or externally. Up so early, my grandfather said, surprised from outside my window. Why not? I said, smiling. Why not indeed? He replied cheerfully. Maybe you're feeling like cleaning the pathway later. Looks like there's going to be a lot more snow today. You can count on me, I replied. He walked back to his kitchen. Light from the embers in the fireplace painted the cracked wall in warm tones. I really have to get on and fix that crack one day soon, before it brings the whole house crumbling down. I wonder if it can be done though. Some which are broken can never be fixed. Not usually. I turned back towards the window, listening and sipping my tea. Snow was falling. A police car stopped at the gate, blasting its bright, colorful lights onto the sparkling snowflakes. Shit, I forgot I called them. I guess I'll have some explaining to do. But it will all be okay. I know it will. I sipped a bit more tea and then walked outside, letting the snowflakes caress my body like I was on a movie set just about to shoot a scene. Ready? Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, what did you think of the story or anything at all?